Hi everyone, this is Melissa Stinson for Two Peas in a Bucket, and I'm back with part 2 of this week's Project Life lesson. I had several people ask how I print my journaling on cards using my home computer, and so I thought I would put together a quick tutorial on how that's done. If you missed part 1 of this week's lesson, it's where all the creative fun happens this week, and we'll be taking a look at how to use a color palette to pull together pattern papers from lots of different collections. But here we're going to go through a quick tutorial showing how to set up a template that will easily let you print on 3x4 and 4x6 journaling cards for your Project Life album. Now you don't need expensive software to do this, unlike last month where you needed Lightroom. You can do this in any word processing or photo editing software like Photoshop, as long as it lets you do two things. You need to be able to draw shapes and text boxes, and you need to be able to give at least one of them a dimension. I'm using Pages, which is Mac's word processing software. You can also do this in Microsoft Word. You can do it in the free Office suite called OpenOffice. You can even do it in PowerPoint, and then like I said, you can also do it in Photoshop or Photoshop Elements. The basic steps are the same. The way you draw the shapes and how you position things are going to be slightly different from software to software. The first thing we need to do is draw a shape. I'm going to draw a rectangle, and Pages automatically puts a square just in the middle of the screen as soon as I click on that button. Microsoft Word, I think you have to tell it you want to draw a square and then click and drag in order to start the shape, and then you might need to right click on it and set the dimensions in the properties. On a Mac it starts it for you, and then you just drag it to be whatever size you need. So I'm going to set it to 3x4. Let me get this over to a 3 and put it back in the center of the page. I also need to get rid of this green fill, so I'm going to click on the fill box and tell it no fill, but I am leaving this outline intact. And again, in Microsoft Office, all of those are going to be under your Shapes Properties menu. So with this outline drawn, we know where the journaling card is going to go. But this box is 3x4, and as we talked about last month, most Project Life journaling cards need to be just slightly smaller than 3x4. We can take care of that by drawing a text box, so let me click on the text box. That is just slightly smaller than that rectangle. So I've drawn the text box, and I'm just going to resize it until it fits just inside those boundaries. So now it's slightly smaller than 3x4 and centered up inside the box. You can use whatever font you'd like. I like for my Project Life journaling to look like it was done on an old typewriter. So I'm going to use a font called Traveling Typewriter. That's all there is to setting up the text. This is for one journaling card on a page. I already have one set up over here to show you an example where you can fit up to 4 on a page, 4 3x4s on a page. And I also have one for 4x6. And I generally keep clean copies of these, unused copies of these somewhere on my computer, and then just make a copy when I want to use it so that I can throw the copy away but still have my original intact. But I'm just going to work on this one that I've made for now and enter some garbage text just to print out as an example. So let's just print in text goes here. Once all the text is in the box, the next step is to print it out. So I'm going to go to the File menu and Print, and make sure that I have my black and white printer selected, that's the right one, and then print this out. And our printer happens to be in my husband's office down the hall, so let me go and grab this out of the tray and I will be right back. So just as an aside, normally I print these on the back of some scrap paper, maybe something we'd already printed on, but the back side was blank. Because these pages are going to get thrown away, all it is a carrier sheet for that smaller journaling card. To attach the journaling card to the sheet, I use a tiny amount of repositionable adhesive. I find that if I use the type of roller that has the small dots, that it's very easy for me just to roll my thumb over the back of the card once I remove it from the carrier sheet after it's been printed on. And that removes all of the adhesive, there's no sticky residue left. So just put a tiny amount of that adhesive on the back of the card and then stick it down on the carrier sheet making sure that it's lined up inside of that box. You can hold this up to a bright light if you have a light box. This is a great use for it to make sure that you're staying inside the confines of that journaling card. You're going to run this same sheet of paper through the printer again, but before you do, delete this outer box. Sometimes when you print, it will shift a millimeter or two from one side to the other from the way it printed previously, and you can end up with a small amount of that line on the side of the card. So if you just delete the box, that shift may happen, but now you don't have to worry about printing any extra lines. You then take this same sheet with the journaling card attached and place it in the bypass tray of your printer. Make sure that you take into account whether or not your printer wants it to be face down or face up, and then come back to your computer and print this same page again. And now you have your finished printed journaling card. Now if your journaling card happened to have any decorative elements, say along the side or the top or the bottom, you can easily avoid printing on those by resizing this text box to be above, below, beside, whatever is applicable to those elements. And sometimes I find it helpful to actually resize this window so that one of these outer boxes is the same size as my journaling card when I hold it up against the screen. And that way I can kind of move it to the side or move it up or down to make sure that the text box will actually miss those pieces. So there you have today's really quick tutorial on how to print on journaling cards. Thanks for watching and have a great week. We'll be back next week with another Project Life video from Two Peas in a Bucket.